Schopenhauer about comparison. Why you are always behind. Schopenhauer Lens. Someday you went to school with has just purchased a home. You saw it this morning. Most likely before you got up, on your phone. New kitchen. Good light. The type of caption which does not tell much but says a lot. And something, after all, only a moment changed in you, which had nothing to do with them and everything with you. Not quite jealousy, not quite sadness. Something less noxious and more pithy than either. The sense of being left behind somehow, that all the rest got a map you did not. That life is a race you didn't notice has already begun and you are losing it to individual you hardly even like. That is a feeling which has a name. It has a mechanism. And Schopenhauer, who wrote 150 years before social media, rendered it an irreversible state of affairs, knew it so well that it ought to make you feel uncomfortable. He would say that things first. Not being a comparison is not a character weakness. Neither is it feebleness, nor insecurity, nor unthankfulness. The will is doing just what the will was made to do. The will, it is ever weighing. You must always be on the lookout to see what is going on around you in terms of position, where you are in relation to everybody, and whether you are gaining ground or losing it. Whether you have what you want or not by the only standard that the will ever go by. Not so much as yesterday sufficed in comparison to them. This is not modern. It is not Instagram. 2 centuries ago, Schopenhauer would view it in drawing rooms and lecture halls and family dinners. The technology changed. The mechanism never did. The will is a source of suffering by comparison, as the engine is a source of heat, not its purpose, but the inevitable consequence of being a working engine. This is where it becomes specific here, and more uncomfortable. Schopenhauer observed that we do not compare ourselves with all people. We do that against a very specific group of people, those with whom we are close enough to our own circumstances that their success seems to be a person-directed comment on ours. A yacht of a billionaire does not finish you off. Life is too remote to seem a judgment upon yours. But somebody of your own city, your own background, your own starting point who now is a little farther on than you, that comes ashore in a different way. That feels personal. Not that they did anything to you, but since the will deems their position to be evidence concerning your own, their home is not merely their home. It is data about you. About whether you where you are, whether the decisions you made were also the right ones. And here the snare of snares. The more you are behind, the more the will grasps forward, sets a new target. Threats that the gap will be bridged will fix the feeling, and toil more, do more and get new people a little farther out of reach to compare with. The divide does not heal, since it was not really about the gap. Schopenhauer even had a term to describe the pleasure others derive when other people are unfortunate enough to fail in their endeavors. Schadenfreude. He was among early philosophers to consider it a psychological phenomenon, not merely a moral failing. And what he has said of it is as follows. Schadenfreude and comparison are the same clock. They are the same clock going in opposite directions. When one in front of you falls, when the owner of the house has lost the job, when the romance that appeared to be flawless collapses in full view of others, when the one you were envious of falls, there comes a sense of relief before the sympathy. A moment of embarrassing relaxation. That pity is not inhumanity, and it is the will registering that the gap is narrowed not because you have moved forward, but because they have moved backward. The will has no opinion as to the direction of the distance. It merely reacts to closeness. That is unpleasant to know, but it is enlightening as well, since it shows comparison to be what it is not, not an expression of your values or your character, but a report of the level of anxiety that the will is at present experiencing. And how do you live with a comparatively mind? Not by cessation of comparison. You cannot cessate it any more than you can cessate breathing, but by knowing what the comparison is in fact measuring, and what it isn't. Schopenhauer was of the opinion that most human suffering was the result of living within the story of another person, comparing your life to a standard which was never your own. The will, left uncontrolled, will always have the nearest person as a measure. It will never inform you otherwise that their timeline is the right timeline. The milestones which are important are their milestones. Their good life is the one you need to be seeking. And the most radical of them all, the thing Schopenhauer thought was true freedom, is to simply reject that template, not aggressively, not by pretense that you do not feel the draw of comparison, but asking in a low and solemn tone one question: what in comparison? When the sense of being behind comes, as it will, most likely not before the close of today, question what criterion it is applying. Whose timeline? Whose conception of progress? Whose enough? On most occasions you will find it borrowed, stolen somewhere, either family, culture, a code that has been tracking you long enough to know precisely which comparisons are most damaging. It was not your standard. You have inherited it as you inherited a language, so early, so complete, that it is as though it were your own thoughts. I have something that Schopenhauer has written, which has remained with me. According to him, human unhappiness is not mainly caused by what we do not have but the knowledge of what other people possess. Not poverty, relative poverty, not failure, relative failure. The location of the suffering is virtually never absolute. It is virtually always created in the fact that there is a gap between your life and the life of another person. What does it mean? And herein lies the element to sit down and enjoy. That a less comparative life will be felt to be more material than a more achieved life, but exposed to the achievements of others. You need not have more. You do not require as many measurements, not as a motto of inspiration, as a literal statement of the action of the will to cause misery and of the reverse. A withdrawal of the comparison in any degree, even in a moment, actually alters the character of what is left. The house owner is not in front of you. They are in another road, are driven by the same blind engine your own, are also gauging themselves against one a little farther up the road, are also, on this particular Tuesday morning, feeling that something is still wanting. There is no race that you are losing. It was created by an impetus within yourself which had to have a motive to continue, and it will continue to create races as long as you continue to run races. You may cease, not forever, not dramatically, only so far as to inquire whether it is the finish line you are sprinting to, or you simply found yourself within close range of it when the will felt the urge to point somewhere. Hereafter, Schopenhauer on loneliness. The reason he believed that solitude was not an issue to resolve, but rather it was an ability to build up. And why those who cannot be alone make it cost everybody about them. Subscribe. I will visit you the following one.